this episode of Another Zelda podcast, Ryan and Mallory Kuhn pick out some of their favorite winter wonderlands. Hello and welcome to Another Zelda podcast. I am David Geisler, your introductory host for this episode. I'm just taking care of the intro today. Ryan and Mallory Kuhn are actually going to be your hosts one more time here. This will be their third time doing this for us, and honestly, they're doing such a great job. I just consider them part of the show at this point. I really think that they both have really good. They're big Zelda fans, and they have a good spirit, and this was a great episode. So actually, this was an episode that I kind of trusted them. I asked them, I said, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? And they said, well, what about wintry areas, a little bit in time with the season. And actually, this kind of connects with or is adjacent to or parallel to some blog posts that we're doing right now. The entire blog team is writing posts about where they would like to, if you could vacation anywhere in a Zelda game, like in real life, if Zelda locations existed in real life, where would you want to go on vacation? And I guess this is not, talking about wintry areas isn't exactly going on vacation, but we're just thinking about locales. I think locales were on the mind. And so Mallory and Ryan did a fantastic job. I am going to go straight into listener feedback here. I have a lot of it tonight. Of course, I didn't do any listener feedback in the previous episode with TC, so I'm going to go a little heavy tonight. I've got about 10 to 12 listener feedbacks that I want to do, and then I'll just hand it off to Mallory and Ryan. So actually, right off the bat here, in loosely chronological order, let's see, over on Instagram, Prism Fox said, I just started listening to you guys, and I love it. Heart emoji. It's really interesting, and I'm happy to have a podcast that seems like I'm actually there listening to a conversation in real time. 10 out of 10. Prism Fox, thank you very much. Actually, I hope part of that feeling of being right there and being able to, feeling like you're right there with us is hopefully in part because we record all of our episodes in person. It's, it's crazy times right now, and it would be, it's very difficult to not just do a bunch of Skype episodes or Google Hangout episodes or over the internet episodes. And I'm trying really, really hard to kind of keep that organic energy and have everybody record together. That is difficult to do in times like this. So I really appreciate your thoughts there. Thank you so much, Prism Fox. Over here on, it looks like Twitter, at Marquez W. Brown 1. Marquez, MarquesW Brown, and then the number 1, says, add another Zelda pod. Love TC, but I have to take umbrage with his retro assessment of gummy bears. Yeah, it was made for kids, but I went back and watched it recently, and I fell right back in love with it. This is our most recent episode. Just before this, TC of the Studio Demands It podcast, another 6.5 show, guested on our show, and we loosely reviewed the first 3 episodes of the now infamous Zelda cartoon that came out in the 1980s. And we were making some jokes about this being around the time that like the Gummy Bear cartoons were coming out as well. And so we have a comment there. Let's see. Moving on. We have over on YouTube, Jordan Derringer said on our top 10 most bothersome baddies episode, which was an episode that Alyssa and I did just a few episodes back. Jordan here says, funny you should mention a mechanic to avoid the skullfish. If you hit your shield button while swimming fast, you generate an electric current around Link that kills them without hurting you or slowing you down. Fantastic. I remember the the skullfish they might have a slightly different name, stallfish or something like that. But the skullfish were one of Alyssa's most bothersome baddies because they make once they find you, they make a beeline right for you. And sometimes it's pretty difficult to deal with them. But apparently, by holding the shield button when you're swimming fast, you can not only be on the defensive, but also on the offensive here, according to Jordan. A little pro tip there. Okay, let's see. Also on YouTube, also top 10 bothersome baddies, we have Discu, spelled Discoo, said, awesome podcast per usual, smiley emoticon. My most annoying enemies were the spark balls found in the 2D games, the ones that travel along the walls and can repeatedly hit you. Fair enough. Yes, those things can get tricky, especially the older 2D games. They seem to really move fast, and they don't care. The artificial intelligence on those things are minimal at best, and so they don't care. They just spin around and move all over the place. Alex Mills over on our Patreon account. I think I actually have 2 from Alex today. Alex Mill is one of our Magical Sword patrons, which means Alex is watching me right now on our camera. So, of course, our top tier feed for Patreon allows for a private video version of all these episodes and a little bit of behind the scenes ahead of time. I literally set a camera up in the corner of the room while we record, and we hang out with our Magical Sword people. So, Alex Mills, how you doing? I'm also going to read your other message a little bit later. I do believe it's in the queue. So Alex says, hello, this is my second time leaving some feedback. I'm loving the podcast so much, I decided to become a Magical Sword patron member. Well, here we go. I especially loved the questions from a new Zelda fan episode. Oh, I did too. I found it interesting to see the perspective between someone who's played Zelda their entire life and someone whose first game is Breath of the Wild. Keep up the great work. Love from Alex in Australia. Alex, one of our Magical Sword tier patrons. We have our tiers are Sword, White Sword, and Magical Sword, which of course are the 3 levels of swords that you get in the original Legend of Zelda game. Yeah, that was an episode that I think we had Dan. Yeah, that was Dan's first episode with us, and he and I were co-workers, and he would talk to me about Zelda for months. He would talk to me about Zelda at work, and I thought, wow, this guy's a really big Zelda fan. Turns out he had really played basically Ocarina of Time and then a ton of Breath of the Wild. And so we did have a conversation where he actually put a list of like 10 or 12 questions together, and I did not know what the questions were ahead of time. He just asked me anything a new Zelda player might want to know. And there were some questions in there like, is the Master Sword the same sword throughout the series? There was one question where he asked like, who are Link's parents, which is a tricky answer, and depending on which Link you're talking about. And another one was, what's the deal with the chickens? So that was a great episode. If you haven't heard it, I invite you to go back to season 2 and check it out. Questions from a new Zelda fan. Here we go. Adam Love over on Patreon says, this is a little bit of a longer one. Here we go. Adam Love says, hey, AZP team. I hope everyone is doing well during these crazy times. I appreciate that you are all doing what you can to continue putting out content. That warms my heart. Thank you, Adam. It is tricky. I know it can't be easy. Well, there we go. I had a great time listening to Mallory and Ryan's most recent episode where they compared playthroughs of Breath of the Wild. That was our episode that I very cleverly titled Breath of the Wilds. I was particularly proud of that title. I have had similar experiences with my own wife as we play together quite often, but have very different play styles. So it kind of reminds me of Kate and I. We have very, very different play styles. We are not married. However, my wife is a completionist and needs to collect everything in sight, while I prefer to get right to business and play through the story. Always cool to hear the experiences of a couple that games together. So great work, Mallory and Ryan. Well, this is great because this is also a Mallory and Ryan episode today. They really do. They definitely fit the AZP spirit. I really enjoy having them do these. Anyway, Adam continues. On a side note, David, I know you have said in the past that the Hyrule Warriors games, whoa, this is getting interesting, aren't really your thing. But with the upcoming Age of Calamity game that's out in November, okay, have you changed your tune at all? I personally think that a Hyrule Warriors game is the perfect platform to tell the story of the war, and with the inclusion of the Breath of the Wild art style, I think this game is a great way to tide us over until the sequel. Very much looking forward to playing this one when it comes out. As always, keep up the great work and stay safe. Adam, I could do a whole episode on Age of Calamity right now. I'm playing it very slowly. Since as of this recording, this message obviously came out. He's messaged this to us a while back. Yeah, the Hyrule Warrior games are tricky for me. They're a little bit difficult. They're not the play style that I usually am drawn to. I really like play styles in which I'm able to explore and move through things in my own time, fast, slow, or otherwise. In the real world, I'm a hiker. I love to be in the wilderness. I love to hike. I love to spend time in the wilderness and sometimes even have little projects. And I like to camp. And so any game that kind of reminds me of those experiences, I like a lot. Breath of the Wild certainly fits that mold. There's a couple of these other they get a little extreme, but some of these like survivalist in the wilderness games, I get a kick out of those quite a bit. Anyway, so Hyrule Warriors doesn't usually fit that. I have been playing Age of Calamity. I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. It's really nice to see that it's in the Breath of the Wild, on the Breath of the Wild map. They've obviously made some modifications because of the engine. I think they're using a Hyrule Warriors engine, by the way. I don't know. I think it's Hyrule Warriors engine, but like the Breath of the Wild assets. That's as far as I'll go into that for now. We do have a post. We have a blog post on our website all about our expectations for Age of Calamity. It is out now, but you can still go check out that post over at anotherzeldapodcast.com, listeners, if you are so inclined. We've really built up a cool crew. I think we've got about 8 blog writers now that write stories for us. Stephanie and Andy are some of our newest writers. Anyway, Adam, thank you so much. And, we're really torn. We are seriously considering doing an Age of Calamity episode. It might have to be a bonus episode, or I have to do a review episode. Maybe I could structure it, because we haven't done a single review episode this season because, honestly, I don't mind admitting it. And I think that all of the other contributors that have been helping this season, all of our blog writers that have been on episodes, I think they wouldn't mind. And in fact, they'd even understand me saying that I've been hesitant to do a review episode this season because part of me, like in my heart, wants to do those review episodes with Kate. I'm waiting for a time in which Kate and I can do a few more review episodes. I think inevitably that type of episode will expand out to some of the other people as well. But it's been difficult. I'll get personal for a minute. It's been difficult to do a review episode not with Kate. I've missed her so much this season. So, anyways, that's that. Let's move on here. Pardon me. Spooky spots. Oh, well, okay. Fiona Taylor over here says on Patreon. Oh, I remember seeing this one a while back. Fiona Taylor says, "Poor David." This is for our Spooky Spots episode 11 in season 3. She was privy to the week early release, which is part of our White Sword tier. Fiona Taylor says, "Poor David, I support you with the Yiga Canyon vote, even if no one else did." So I thought that in Breath of the Wild, the path up to the Yiga clan, if you actually take the canyon, the path up to the Yiga clan hideout for me was super spooky just because it was really quiet and all that stuff. And no one else thought so. No one else in our crew thought so at all. In fact, they were like, "What the heck? That's not scary at all." It was just really eerie to me. But anyway, Fiona continues, and I think she is aligned with me here. Fiona Taylor continues, "Those frog statues were really creepy the first time I was making my way through that area and kept finding more and more of them staring at me." Smiley emoticon. "I just kept thinking, what kind of weird cult thing is going on here? Haha. I also think it's creepy just because it's so quiet compared to the other areas. And you know that you're going into a mission encounter, but you don't know what, where, or when, or how it's going to start. So every little noise or movement makes you paranoid." Ghost emoji. Fiona, exactly. That's exactly how I felt. I remember just the clinking of like the little things on the strings. Every time the wind rustled the sand going up there, I was like, "Who's it? Where is it? What's going on?" I would climb up the walls of the mountain and go, or up the walls of the canyon and go along the edge and look down. And then I'd jump back down in. It was not terrifying. It wasn't spooky because there was ghosts or blood or knives or any scary blades like that, like you see in the Spirit Dungeon in Ocarina of Time. But for me, it was super spooky because it was just eerie. And again, actually, I'm going to piggyback off this wilderness thing. I do have life experiences where I've been out in the wilderness and you just get a weird feeling. There's like sometimes you can be in the forest and you're something way deep down in your brain is adding up all the variables and you're like, something's odd right now. And it might be that an animal's nearby that you can't see. And it might just be your imagination. But walking through, your senses, you do heighten your senses a little bit when you're in a situation like that. And, every little stick that snaps, you're kind of turning your head to hear and see what's going on. You're not in freak out mode. You're just in heightened. And I remember being in that same heightened experience in Breath of the Wild, going to the Yiga clan. Now, honestly, in my second and third playthrough of Breath of the Wild, it's like you just book there, or sometimes I even go around the back way. I did do that once in my Master Quest playthrough and Master Mode playthrough. But that first time, thank you so much for sticking up for me, Fiona. You and I, we're besties when it comes to that. Oh, here's Alex's second Magical Sword comment right here. Alex Mills said over on YouTube, inside the private videos, he said, I really enjoy the video versions. Being able to put faces to your lovely voices is really nice to me. Keep up the hard work. I love every second of AZP and will continue to support as a Magical Sword patron. Much love from Alex in Western Australia. Alex, again, thank you so much for your literal support at Patreon, but also thank you for your support via enthusiasm. And I'm really glad. It does take us a lot of time to put these video episodes together. And the least amount of people see them, of course, because thousands and thousands of people see the audio versions or listen to the audio versions, and we only have so many Patreon patrons. But it's still very special to me to be able to make these for you guys. All right, I'm just gonna bang through a couple. Speaking of audio versions, iTunes reviews, and we're gonna get right into the episode. Here we go. We have a ton of iTunes reviews right now, and I always talk about how helpful it is. If you're inclined to leave us a review on iTunes, it's massive. It's a massive part of the algorithm that helps us be seen. So I always, no matter what, I'm sure to read iTunes reviews just because I'm so grateful. All right, here we go. This is an older one. This is at the very end of September 30th. Splatternote is the screen name here. Says, relaxing and entertaining podcast. Hey ya. I love this podcast, and I've been listening for a long time, actually. I love every episode, and they get me through the normal everyday chaos of life. It's my happy place while I play Zelda or draw. Well, Splatternote, if you are inclined to do some Zelda drawings and send them our way via Twitter, or frankly, you can even email me at anotherzeldapodcast@gmail.com. That would be fun to see if you draw Zelda stuff. Anyways, I continue. Hope you guys review Cadence of Hyrule, since it's my favorite Zelda game by far. I've beaten it like 6 times now. But anyways, thank you for existing. It's really helping me get through life. Oh, Splatternote, that's really nice. Thank you. Thank you for listening, and thank you for sharing. We'll probably do a Cadence of Hyrule episode at some point. It's tricky because it's a spin-off, and I really want to focus on some of the main games first. But I think Cadence of Hyrule... probably Age of Calamity. They're worthy of a full episode. I don't think they're a bonus episode. Anyways, here we go. Next we have Bim Tartan said over in early October, said, must listen. I'm a huge Zelda fan, and I found this podcast about a month ago, and it's amazing. I listen to it at work and during my commute, and it makes my day so much better. This show is a must listen for anyone that is a fan of Zelda and enjoys podcasts. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bim. Let's see. I'm going to pull up just 2 more, and then we're going to get into this episode. Over here, Haley.Hutch said over on iTunes, I say iTunes, what is it? Apple Podcasts these days. I recently discovered this podcast and have since fallen in love. I work as a delivery driver, so I listen to the pod when I work. It really helps the hours go by a lot faster, and I don't dread having to work. Haha. I've loved Zelda since I was a kid, and it's super great to hear the opinions and different experiences all of you at AZP have had with it. Thank you for entertaining me while I work. Well, Haley, if that's your name, Haley Hutch, if that's your name, I hope we're entertaining you this very moment. I hope work is going well. I'm thinking about you right now. I don't know what it is, driving around delivery. Thank you so much for reaching out to us. We get that a lot from listeners. They speak about how they listen to us during their work day and helps the time pass. And we actually try to design our episodes so that you can go back. We try to make it so that each episode is kind of timeless, so you can just dig into the library and listen to anything you want, whatever the topic is. And so hopefully you're taking advantage of that. Thank you so much. One last one. Here we go. This is over on iTunes, a 5-star review, and the name is $Bacon1427. Is that supposed to be Spaken? Dollar Bacon? $Bacon1427 says, great Zelda podcast. Excellent podcast. I've listened to almost all episodes and loved every minute. It's obvious the hosts care about the Zelda world and put a lot into each episode. We do, thank you. But they don't take themselves or the topics too seriously. We also don't do that. Yes, thank you. It's very important to not take yourself too seriously. That's what makes this podcast enjoyable and conversational, but also informative. one issue, episode 2, season 2, episode 1. Opening areas won't play. I've heard this from a few people now. I thought I fixed it. I don't know what's going on. I think maybe we had a bad file at the time. It was like a broken upload or something. Maybe it's good. I will check it again. I'd really like to hear that one. Thanks again for a fantastic podcast series. Well, thank you, $Bacon1427. It does take a lot to make a show like this because it is a fine line between we're not scared to get stuff wrong if we get stuff wrong. That's part of the journey. Part of being a fan of any kind of series is learning as you go and learning the things you learn and learning more as you go. And that's part of our journey here too. And that's really special for us and hopefully it's special for our listeners. All right, everybody. I kind of knew that I was going to top load this episode with a bunch of listener feedback. I wanted to catch up because there wasn't any in the previous episode, but now we get to travel from Chicago, Illinois, where I'm recording right now, over to Detroit, Michigan via the magic of editing. And Mallory and Ryan, I think Ryan's kind of hosting this one. Ryan and Mallory Kuhn will share with us some of their favorite winter wonderlands.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Another Zelda Podcast. I am your host this time, Ryan, and with me as always is my co-host and wife, Mallory.
Hi.
And for those who can see, that is our cat Thorin,
The third co-host.
who is going to sit right in front of the camera for Mal.
That's fine. You can do that. That's fine.
So we have 3 hosts in this episode, thanks to Thorin. So, as David mentioned in the intro, we are going to be talking about winter places in the Zelda world.
Snowy locations.
So we'll dive into this. We have a few. We're doing this as a favorites episode. I think we work out. We have a few each for each other, and we got a couple honorable mentions that we haven't actually played, but we actually looked up and were really cool places from at least in the ones I did.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna dive in. I think you're gonna start us off.
Sure. So we'll just start. So there's not a ton of super snowy locations in Zelda, at least. Well, it sounds like in the handhelds, there's way more than there are in the ones that we've played, which is why we have our honorable mentions.
There is one called Oracle of Seasons, so I'm assuming that.
Right. So, that's why for our favorites episode, it's going to be a few fewer. Not quite as many.
It won't be a top 10.
Yeah, it's going to be fewer than normal just because for ones that I've actually played, there weren't a ton of different locations that I could think of that were particularly memorable. But I have 3. The first one that I'll talk about is it's called Snowhead, and it's from Majora's Mask.
I love this place.
So, yeah. So in Majora's Mask, this is kind of like the Goron area, and it's frozen in like an unseasonable winter ice whatever. I don't know, I'm having trouble talking today. Maybe we shouldn't record today. But no, so this is where you get the Goron mask.
Yep.
So the Goron Mountain is frozen over. When you go there, you have to use the lens of truth to find the spirit of Darmani, who in traditional Majora's Mask, this is kind of dark nature, died trying to stop the unnatural winter.
Yes.
So throughout the course of this part of the game, you basically steal Darmani's identity. So you get a mask of him, and then like it's kind of creepy. If you remember, like you wander around the town and like you talk to people, and they're like, "Darmani, I haven't seen you in a while." It's creepy.
That's most of those masks, anyways.
Right, but I feel like Darmani is like for me, it's like the most. I don't know.
Well, with the Zora mask, you run into the bandmates, and they're like, "Oh, you didn't die."
I know, it's so sad though. Yeah, Majora's is a dark game.
Yes.
But anyways, so and then throughout the rest of that part, you have to learn all the parts of that Goron lullaby.
Yes.
And that's how you get the big Goron out of the way, so you can get into the temple there.
Mm-hmm.
You may
the temple
remember,
itself is not ice, though.
I don't remember it being particularly icy. But at the end, when you get to Goat, he's frozen in a big ice cube. You have to unfreeze Goat.
Yeah, and then, of course, then you have to fight him. So you could have just left him frozen the whole time. Why did you have to unfreeze him?
Well, because you have to beat him, because for some reason he's creating the unnatural winter by being frozen in a ice cube. I don't know.
Zelda logic.
But yeah, so the boss is Goat, and once you defeat him, Spring comes back to Goron Mountain. All is saved. The other thing I put in my notes for each location, so I talk a little bit about what we do there, and then I'm going to talk about the enemies that you find in that location. So Freezards, which are like the little, I don't know, little balls of ice that float around, or whatever, zip around on the ground and come to get you.
Oh, they're kind of like one of those things in the desert.
Kind of. They're more. I think of them almost as like air hockey discs, but they're not a disc. They're like a little mound. But they're like, and they're in a lot of the games. Honestly, 2 of my 3 locations of my main 3 that I'm measuring have Freezards. There's also Ice Keys here. There's the blue Tektites, which are those like jumpy, spidery, bug-looking things that jump at you. There's also White Wolfos.
Okay.
Enos, which are just like sentient mounds of snow. And then White Bows, which not a but a bow, but they are kind of like little ghosty guys. Yeah.
More ghosty and not like an actual Poe. Like more of a spirit.
Yeah.
I remember those.
So that is my first snowy location that I wanted to talk about from Majora's Mask, Snowhead.
Okay. All right. Well, my first one, I'm going to go, of course, with one of my favorite games, Ocarina of Time.
Oh my gosh, no way. Ryan's going to talk about Ocarina of Time, guys.
I know. So the first one I'm going to talk, actually, it's actually, I take that back. It's actually both Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess.
Okay.
It is the Frozen Zora domains. So in both games, both times Zora's domain is frozen over. So I'm going to start with Ocarina of Time. This timeline order. We're just going to do it that way. So Zora's domain, when you're a kid, is fine, nothing wrong with it. But when you go back 7 years later, completely frozen over.
Right.
And you have to go. I mean, there's really nothing there. You find King Zora frozen in red ice. Red ice, which is just weird. And you have to pretty much get him free. There's no bad guys in here. You don't really see anyone else. The shop is still open for some reason. I don't get that logic, but it's how it is.
Essential workers.
They're essential workers, yes. But eventually, like, you do save King Zora, and once you do that, you do get the blue tunic in order to then go to the water temple later on in that one. So not a whole lot happens in this one. The music is nice. I do remember the music being very like cheery but still calming in the same time. It's not like a shallow melody. It's just like kind of like upbeat, higher tune, but still like,
which is kind of weird.
Yeah,
like,
it's nice.
Oh, everyone's frozen and ice. Let's be cheerful about it.
And then we go to Twilight Princess. Again, you find it frozen, but it's the first time you go there, it's just frozen over.
Right.
And to its burden, probably why it's frozen over, and the ice mountains where you find later are right there as well, like the path to get to the snowy area there. That's different topic though. So you find Zora's domain completely frozen. You actually warp
I remember
a giant like shard of magma lava rock
from the Goron place. I remember that.
You drop it in there right on top of people. Hopefully you don't actually smash anyone, but you drop it because everyone's frozen in the ice.
Right.
You drop it and it unfreezes. It just unfreezes the whole domain from that one area. So you do afterwards, you find Queen Rutella's ghost.
Yeah.
So you find out that she passed and that you are tasked by her to save her son, Rallis, I believe is the name.
Yeah, I remember him.
In which you bring him back to there, and there's the whole process of saving him. He's sick, and then you bring him to the healer in Kakariko Village.
Oh my God, I remember this. Yeah.
That whole process where you're with the bar. I can't remember.
Telma,
yes. You were Telma.
Everyone's favorite thirsty barmaid.
Yes. And what you do is you follow her on the wagon to get to Kakariko Village, and you're fighting off everything. And then you get Rallis to the shaman. Shaman heals. And then you actually get the Zora's armor by saving him there. So both times actually you get the Zora outfit pretty much in order to go to the water temple on both of these levels.
Oh,
On both
okay.
these games, actually. So, again, no bad guys in the Zora's domain. No real hard issues. Maybe a few puzzles here and there on how to get to where you need to do or how to unfreeze it in Twilight Princess case. But it's very basic. It seems to be a very common thing, obviously, with it happened twice in Zora's domain. So, when you're in a water world and something bad happens to you, the most common thing is going to be frozen.
Well, that makes sense. If you have to go to the water world and like the next push to get the storyline going is you have to talk to someone there, it's pretty convenient from a plot perspective to be like, well, I can't talk to anyone. They're frozen.
Yes.
Now I need to do this other thing. So yeah, that makes sense. I do remember that whole part with in Twilight Princess, especially the warping from that's one of my favorite like little weird elements from Twilight Princess is like noticing things that you're gonna have to warp to another location later. Like you find that random bridge against the wall in the woods and you have to warp it into place. I think they only use that mechanic like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, the only other one I could think of off my head is it's where you find the monster gauntlet in the Gerudo Desert, and on top of it is again part of the stone bridge, and you warp it out of the way to the bridge, and then you can get into the monster
gauntlet. I don't remember that being trapped by a bridge, but I do remember having to do something to get to that.
Yeah, to move it, yeah. But yeah, that's my first one. I love the music on both. Like Zora's Domain in general just has great music, so I love that. But just give it kind of an eerie, icy feel to it, I guess. They do that as well. So it was nice. It's common. It's Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess, probably 2 of my top 3 games right there. And it's good area to start with. So let's go back to you. What's your next one?
All right. So my next snowy location is like you're there for 5 minutes. But just like Ryan can't go an episode without talking about Ocarina.
You have Wind Waker.
I can't go an episode without talking about Wind Waker. Also, there's a really fun reason why I like this. So it's the Ice Ring Isle in Wind Waker. So basically, the whole thing is frozen over. You can't even get onto the island at all until you have the fire arrows. So you have to have already like gotten the warp thing and then warped into that middle island, like where it's like a lake in the middle of the island, where you meet the creepy baby fairy.
Oh yeah,
toddler fairy, whatever. She's like holding a little teddy bear. It's really creepy. And then she gives you the arrows. But anyways. You can't even go there till you've done that. And then, so you have to use a fire arrow to unfreeze the island. And then from there, you have 5 minutes before it freezes again. And you have to go around. There's like a maze of like ice flows that you have to jump from like one iceberg to another on the outside. And then you go inside and there's like a small little, I'm not even going to call it a puzzle. It's like a little obstacle course almost inside where you have to go through and at the end you get the iron boots.
Okay.
And that's whatever. So that's the part. And then you can go to that wind island where you have to use the iron boots to walk. So enemies that are here, there's not any enemies on the ice floe. So to get to the island while you're sailing with the King of Red Lions, there's like some of those warships that shoot the bombs at you. But once you get to the island, you're pretty much safe from everything except for falling until you get inside. And then there's just like some keys and some like green bokoblins. Like I said, it's not like a difficult puzzle. The timing mechanic is the only part that's stressful, but like really, I think generally I have like 2 minutes left on the clock still by the time I finish this particular puzzle. It's not hard if you stay calm.
Which I could imagine you playing this first time.
Oh my God,
and you're just being like, oh, I gotta finish this. I don't have that much time.
I did not stay calm at all for like the first 5 times I played this part. But the best part about this little island is the slipping mechanic. So when you're Link, if you have him like run in one direction, when you're like outside on the icebergs, you have him run in one direction and then you like suddenly turn the direction really fast on him and like have him go the other way, he goes wah, and then he falls right on his like face. It's super funny. I will do that like at least 5 times before I actually get cooking on this. And that right there, that mechanic is literally the only reason why this made my list.
Well, and also the fact that it is an ice winter based theme.
Yeah, well, obviously it is on theme. It's not like I'm going to just talk about, Dragon Roost Island is my favorite snowy location.
Yes.
It's not. But, it's really kind of a lackluster location. Not much really happens here. Like I said, you do get the iron boots, which I was reading something online that said that maybe this was possibly inspired by the ice caverns in Ocarina of Time. Which sounds like you're going to talk about later. But because that location, you also get the iron boots. But yeah, so that is my second snowy location.
So, as someone alluded, my next one is the ice caverns of Ocarina of Time. So, as we talked about in my last one with Zora's Domain, you find it frozen and you figure out that you go to the ice cavern that is behind it. When you go in there, this is where Jabu Jabu was,
right?
Which he is no longer there. And that's actually a question that was weird. Weirdly enough, when I was in my research, like, where did Jabu Jabu even go? Because there's nowhere for him to hide. Like, it's a very, like, small pond for a big fish.
Maybe there's, like, I don't know.
So
froze into an ice cube and someone pushed him somewhere.
Maybe. I mean, I remember because when you're a kid, you face him and he's kind of turned to the bad side.
Right.
So maybe he got pulled somewhere else, or maybe he got, we'll put this in air quotations, fired for doing a bad job and was taken
fired.
somewhere.
Ganon's like, you're out.
Yes. So you get in there, you have to jump across a few icebergs, watch out for a couple Octoroks, and then you get into the ice cavern. So once you get in there, your main bad guys are Keese and Ice Keese, White Wolfos, a few dropping icicles on you, but those aren't really bad guys. It's more of a environmental thing.
A hazard.
A hazard, yes. And actually, I didn't realize I wrote this down, but there are Freezards in here. But the reason I didn't get them to be like yours is because they're actually like almost like sculptures, like tall sculptures that kind of either are stationary, and if you walk by them, they breathe the ice on you and you freeze.
That's a type of Freezard that I will talk about in my next location.
Oh, I'm giving away. We keep giving away things. And then there's also ones that do move around and kind of like disappear slightly, and they move around to try to get you from behind, and then they freeze at you as well. I remember those. Very easy to beat. Nothing really hard here to beat.
No, but it's a little more like if we are comparing it to the Ice Ring Isle, I would definitely say Ice Caverns. Well, it takes longer and it's more intensive.
Yes.
Like it's got more to it, more meat to it.
So as your last location, you get the iron boots here. You do have to fight your mini boss in this. I guess he would be a boss in this one. Is this a White Wolfo? If you're doing the Master Quest version, actually it's 2, I believe.
Okay.
So you fight him off, you get the iron boots, and then you're like, okay, what do I do next? Sheik shows up, teaches you the Serenade of Water, and then you take the iron boots and you can get out a back way without having to go back through the whole thing. While you're also in here, you find Blue Fire.
Yeah.
And that way you can also not just move through the cavern itself, but also to then save King Zora.
The King Zora.
And then which also to get that the blue tunic as well. So you need that as well. It's a wonderful puzzle maze because you got a couple of places where
it's the things you got to push the ice blocks
around.
Yep.
I'll get the silver rupees in different spots. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
So you get that room with the giant like icicle.
Yep.
Icicle. I see what I did there. Spinning around, and you have to dodge it while getting the silver rupees too. So it's mostly puzzle, and then you got some ice keys, and then the wizards, and then the fallen icicles on you.
That's pretty much it. Think I remember really enjoying the ice caverns. I also remember the thing that I had the most trouble with, like damage wise, was those falling icicles.
You hear them coming, and honestly, if you just keep running without stopping,
I
you should be
know,
fine.
but like I don't run without stopping, and you know me, I usually play when I'm playing a handheld, and when I played Ocarina last, I was playing it on the DS.
Oh yeah.
I don't play with volume
Yep.
because I usually play while you're reading or while you're watching TV or something, and I want to be in the room with you. So I don't have that that warning noise. So yeah, I had trouble with those, but I do like the Ice Cavern because it is so puzzle heavy.
Yeah. So let's get a quick break. We'll get to our last ones and get to our honorable mentions. So we'll come back and then finish off this list of favorites here of winter, not so Wonderlands in Zelda, I guess.
I like it.
All right.
Get a hot cup of tea and come back.
Exactly. Bye, guys. Hi, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Mike.
And we are brothers-in-law. We both love beer and are amateur home brewers.
Wait, so does that make us brothers-in-law?
I believe so.
Every episode, we will talk about aspects of beer and home brewing.
But nothing super technical because we're learning this too.
So join us as we sit down together and dive into something beer-related.
Whether it's a little field research, tasting a certain beer style, or beers from a specific brewery,
talk about our experiences brewing beer at home, including our own solo brews, as well as themed competitions we'll set up along the way.
We will also talk about some of our favorite aspects of brewing, like hops, extra ingredients, building our brew cave, and more. And of course, our own misadventures that have happened along the way.
So, if you like beer, are home brewing already,
or if you have an interest in home brewing and don't know where to start,
join us on Brothers-in-Law Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
And make sure to follow us on Twitter at Brothers-in-Law and check out our website, brothersinlaw.com.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, this is TC.
And this is Jim from the Studio Demands It podcast,
Where every episode we take a demand from a hypothetical studio,
which could be you,
and challenge ourselves to conceptualize, pitch, and craft a film based on the stipulations
or the demands
we are given. We talk about movies all the time. Particularly, we complain about the choices made in the films we've seen.
We're nerds like that.
And, of course, like any good nerd does, we automatically assume that we could do better.
Even with the demands and restrictions that clearly must have been put on by a production.
So head on over to studiodemandsit.com and listen to our previous library of episodes. Our library of previous episodes. Our precious library, Jim. Our library of precious episodes.
You're a pirate, Smeagol.
Okay. So head on over to studiodemandsit.com to listen to our library of episodes.
And submit your demand for a future episode, too.
So go do that.
Okay, bye.
Okay, end of ad.
And we're back. So, Mallory, it is your turn. What is your next one on your list of winter Wonderlands of Zelda?
Winter Wonderlands. So the next snowy location that I picked, or the last one I picked, and for myself, I've saved the best for last, in my personal opinion. It's Snow Peak Ruins from Twilight Princess.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is where the Yetis are, if you don't remember. So how you get there, there's like a whole side quest where you have to get this special little fishing hook from Prince Rallis.
Yes.
Is that how you say his name? Yes, from the Zora Prince. And then you use that to catch a reek fish so that you, as Puppy Link, Wolf Link, can sniff it, get its scent, and then you follow that scent because the Zoras have told you that something is stealing reek fish. So you follow its scent out of Zora's domain into Snow Peak. And there's a bunch of stuff you can do when you're walking around. This isn't really Snow Peak Ruins, but it's like Snow Peak Ruins adjacent. There's some howling stones that you can find out in the wilderness. There's a bunch of poes out there.
You got the foxes or whatever.
Like, yeah, they're white wolfos.
Oh, they're white wolfos. Okay.
They're just like, they are more fox-like.
Yeah.
Well, according to the whatever website I was
Zeldapedia.
double checking myself. Yeah. One of those ones. It said they were white wolfos at least. But yeah, they're like those little Arctic fox guys. They're everywhere too. But the whole point of it is you follow the reek fish scent and you find Yeto, the dude Yeti, at the top of a hill. And so begins the best mini game in all of Zelda forever. Snowboarding. What? Quick side story. So like this was like the first Zelda game I played on like the Wii. So I know Twilight Princess is for GameCube. We have it for Wii. My favorite game other than Zelda games for GameCube was a game called SSX3 Snowboarding, which I don't know if anyone has played it. So fun.
The snowboarding version of Tony Hawk, pretty much.
Yeah, I was obsessed. I was obsessed with this game as a kid. So obviously I was filled with delight at the chance to snowboard in a Zelda game. So much fun. So basically you have to race him and you have to beat him to his mansion in order to get in.
Yes.
Right? And then later you can race Yetta as a true mini game, and you get a piece of heart.
I believe
if you beat
yes.
her, and she's a lot harder.
Yeah, I was saying, it took me quite a few tries on
Oh
that
my
one.
gosh, we used to just do a whole sit down and play like a whole gaming session, which like we're old now, so a gaming session is like maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah, but this was back then where it wasn't just an hour and a half.
Yeah, maybe. And we would literally just snowboard the whole time.
Yeah.
So much fun. But anyways, so you snowboard down the mountain and you get to Snow Peak Ruins, which is like this big kind of rundown frozen mansion that the two Yeti live in. And the whole point is that Yetta is sick, and which I actually think you can't race Yetta until you've beaten Snow Peak.
Oh yeah, you have to beat Snow Peak.
So
because she's now not sick.
Yeah. Anyways, so she's sick. I was just gonna say, how is she sick? We were just racing her, but no, you're right. We have to wait. But you adventure around and you're finding ingredients to make soup for Yetta. So you find like cheese and a pumpkin and the onion. I don't know. The ingredients are weird. And like basically I think the soup that it actually would make would be super gross.
Yeah.
But it gives you lots of hearts, and Yetta will give you like little samples in your bottle. So you finally get to the room at the end after you've made the soup and like you've gone around the whole place and you found the key, and you get to the place where the mirror shard is, which is why you were looking for the Snow Peak in the first place. And spoilers, Yetta is the boss.
I mean, we kind of went over this in scary spots.
I know, but
a couple episodes
people
back.
might not have listened to that one.
Yeah.
If you haven't, go back and listen to it.
Yeah, definitely one of the scary places.
But yeah, it's creepy. She's like totally like possessed by the mirror shard, and she goes all creepy and like her eyes glow. It's very scary. And you have to defeat her using the big weapon that you get there in the Snow Peak Ruins is like a ball and chain. Yeah. So it's a big old spike ball and a chain.
That you somehow fit into a pocket.
I was going to say, it cracks me up when he's carrying it and Link's like, whoo, 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 and walking really slow. And then as soon as you put it in your pocket, he's like, oh, I'm good. He's got like a Mary Poppins bag or something. But yeah, so that's how you defeat her. So enemies that reside in Snow Peak Ruins, there's those white wolfos / Arctic fox things that we have talked about already. There's ice keys. Freezards and mini freezards. So here, mini freezards are the little hockey puck things.
Yes, with the one eye.
Yeah, with the one red eye that zip around on the ground. And then the freezards are, like, some of them are dragons.
Yes.
Right, where they're built up into big things that usually block a doorway or something.
And if you get too close, they blow
and if you get too close, they blow ice breath on you and you freeze. And those are those things you have to put the like ball in the cannon and use a bomb and blow it up. So that's a very fun mechanic.
There was many times I ran out of bombs during this level and had to leave the temple.
You can hit them with the ball and chain if you have it and if you can be quick enough.
Yes.
Yeah, it's tricky. And then the other enemy, the bane of my entire existence lives here. They're called Chilfos. And you don't maybe remember what a Chilfos is, and maybe you didn't struggle with them quite as much as I did.
And I did.
They are like the little like blizzardy looking like skeletons made of ice, and they throw those spears at you.
And they got some range.
They have crazy range.
And accuracy.
And it freezes you, and it takes so many hearts. I think probably in any Zelda game, Chilfos have killed me. I've defeated my Link more times than any other enemy. I don't even think I'm exaggerating.
Well, there's a room that's like almost like kind of church-like room.
Yes.
With all the pews and everything.
And there's like 6 of them in there.
And so,
I
like,
know.
you get hit, and then you finally unfreeze. Another one throws another spear at you, and you freeze again.
Well, and you have to hit them. I think you have to hit them with the
Ball
and chain. So they're really quick with their spears.
Yes.
And you're really slow with your ball and chain. I mean, I honestly, I love Snow Peak Ruins. It's one of my favorite parts of Twilight Princess. It's like one of my favorite areas in the game. Not just because of the snowboarding, but that doesn't hurt. But the Chilfos, they're a lot.
They are the worst, I will say.
They're terrible.
Of most of the bad guys here, them and the Ice Keys are probably like the worst.
Yes, Ice
bad guys
Keys
so far.
will get me too because
Yes.
they
you don't
come
even
up
hear them
and
coming.
you don't hear them, right? And then you're frozen and you lose
Yep.
whatever, a heart and a half or however much it is. So, anyways, that is my top location for snowy Zelda locations: Snow Peak Ruins from Twilight Princess. What about you?
So mine, and of course we have to talk about this game because it's a good third or quarter of the map is covered in snow, is Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
So there are many locations where there's snow and everything else. There are three main ones that I found, and I'm going to more regions than I am going to say like specific locations. So you have the Heber Mountains, which is obviously where like just north of the Rito village and everything else. You have the Tabanath Tundra, which is just west of those mountains.
Okay.
And then you have the Gerudo Highlands, which is just north of Gerudo Desert.
Right.
So you'll find plenty of bad guys here. I mean, there's Lionels, there's Bulbakins, there's everything around there. But for ice-specific ones that I found, you get the Ice Keys, as always.
Yep.
And Ice Wizzorbs, which are just a pain.
Yeah.
And then you also have the Ice Choo-Choos. And honestly, I love Choo-Choos in this game in general because I turn them against anything around them.
Breath of the Wild is the only game in which I do not find Choo-Choos just to be
the worst.
Like a drag.
Yeah.
Like I find them terrible in every other game. But yeah, I agree. Like
Yeah.
you see like a whole encampment of enemies and there's like one fire choo-choo in the middle and
Yes.
you're like, oh yeah.
Yes. So like when you hit the Ice Choo-Choo, it freezes everything
Right.
around you, and then you just like go down there and wreck shit. So so we'll go down, and the next thing that's really cool about Breath of the Wild is the cold factor. So you were talking with Wind Waker, you have the mechanic where you slip and fall because it is icy.
Yep.
In this game, I don't think there is that mechanic, but the other mechanic is just overall cold as an environmental thing. And obviously, if you don't wear enough clothes or eat the right food or elixir or something like that, you will eventually die in these areas because of the cold. So you can find the Rito outfit is really good. You can get one at the beginning of the game, which is just a tunic, I believe, to help you. The snow quill tunic, I think is what it is. And you just wear that at that beginning section because there is one on that main area where you start. That is cold, but it's just a small area. You're just on a couple peaks that are just high up.
Right, but you have to get something. I remember it being very frustrating.
You're getting shrines up there.
Okay.
Yeah, you're getting the first
right
shrines.
In the beginning. Yep.
So, most times you'll see these few bad guys, but most times you'll see those regular bad guys, and they'll be around fire, which you could also use to keep yourself warm. If you just have like a flame sword or a weapon that's on fire, you can actually keep yourself warm that way. But they'll usually stay around fire as well, and you just kind of go in there and mess with them and get them out as well. So, the other fun thing, which you kind of alluded to actually with Twilight Princess, is shield sledding on here. So you use your shield and sled down. There is actually one shrine that you have to do that with.
Oh, I don't think I got this shrine.
So you have to start on top of a hill. I think it's an extra. It's one of those extra ones for.
I think I did do this one. I think I lied because it's like a timing
Yep.
thing.
So you have to go through everything and hit every single mark that you have to go through, and then you get to the bottom. And if you get everything in the time limit, then boom, you're there. And to be honest with you, this was the first time I ever shield surfed at all throughout the game, and it was my third playthrough.
Yeah, I didn't use that mechanic very much. There's a point in, I can't remember for the life of me which snowy location in Breath it is, but there's like a guy who is selling something, and if you race him, right? you can win or get a discount. I forget.
I think so. I think I know which one you're talking
Or
about. I
maybe
never
he
actually
just
faced
sells
him.
you a shield so you
found
can
him.
serve.
I'm about to say, I think I found
Yeah.
him my first time playing it, but I didn't know what was going on, so I decided,
I'm just gonna run off. Yeah, I talked to him a little bit, and I think I did end up shield sledding like once or twice, and then I did abandon ship. I didn't end up finishing whatever I was supposed to do there because I got frustrated.
Yeah.
But anytime I think of shield sledding, that's like the main thing I think of.
Yeah, it's really fun. I mean, you do it in Gerudo because you do on the sand with the seals.
Yes, with the seals.
And you have to do it, obviously, to get into the camel.
Yep.
So, but in the snow, I never actually did it. I never actually got the mechanic to do it. And finally, I figured it out and did it the third playthrough, and I was doing it a bunch of different times. Was decently okay.
You know why I think I don't use that mechanic? In general, I'm trying to get up.
True, yes.
And if I want to go down, I'm just going to glide because
down.
it's
Exactly,
faster
yes.
than sledding anyways. But yeah, I mean, it's still a fun, cool thing that they've put into the game, even if we don't use it all that much.
Yeah, and then actually, one of the locations that I do hate the most is the Tabanath Tundra. So this is the path that you take to get to one of those giant mazes where you I forgot what armor it is, but it's a set armor to increase your attack.
Barbarian armor.
Yep. Yes. So to get to one, you can warp right to where, like when you first get there, there's a stable, and of course there's a shrine there, and then you see a shrine way across the tundra. You can see it light up, and you just keep going across. To get to there, though, there's not one, there's not two, there's three. I want to say Savage Lionels.
I knew you were going to say Lionel.
And so, the first time going through this, I somehow beat the one. I found the next one. I'm like, oh no. So I beat the second one. I'm like, okay, done. So I then found the third one. I'm like, dear lords, like took care of him, got into the shrine, took care of the shrine that's right there before I went into the maze to get the warrior outfit. But when I walked out of that first shrine, before I went over there, it stops.
Blood moon?
A blood moon rises. And
you just
right there
out. I would have teleported away.
The Lionel I just beat, and he just happened to see me, pulled out his shock arrows, and just wrecked me. So I have a small bit of anger towards the Tabanath Tundra, because of that. So, but Breath of the Wild has a ton of like snowy peaks that you get up there, and obviously you need to put on the tunic. And honestly, even the flight range is in an icy location.
Yep, you get
that's
cold
near
there.
I think that's just south of the
where the Ritos live.
No, that's north of the Ritos.
Okay,
but it's just south of the Heber Mountains.
Oh, got it.
So that's all done in ice. And I think there's quite a few shrines up in that area.
Well, I was gonna say that I don't know, and I don't know which of the snowy locations these shrines are in. But when I think snowy shrines in Breath, there's two main ones that I think of. One was just one that was totally entombed in ice.
Yes.
And so I literally just lit a torch and like sat Link next to it and like went and got a snack and came back and it was melted or whatever, or I probably still had to wait. And then the other one is one that took me about 1 billion tries. So there's like all these furrows in the snow that like wind back and forth and are leading down to this big set of metal doors. And you can't like use your magnesis on the doors. You can't use a bomb to open the doors. So and there's a bunch of snowballs at the top of the hill. So you figure out, okay, well, I need to roll a snowball down the hill so that it follows the path perfectly. Yeah, like I said, it took me I probably spent over an hour just rolling snowballs down this darn hill. To get the doors to open. But I did finally get it. I did get that shrine. And it was fun. It was frustrating, but like in a fun way because nothing was attacking me or trying to kill me. I just really got to like focus on the puzzle. But yeah, that's one of the things I always think about with snowy locations and Breath.
So those are our favorites. I think we have a couple honorable mentions though. Ones that when we were looking through the different locations, stuff that we haven't played that looked really interesting. I think you got a couple and I got a couple, or at least one for sure. But one I got, this one's actually really fun when I did my research. So I did one, but you got a couple.
Yeah, I have two. And, you know, bear with me, listeners that have played these games. I have not. So this is all just internet research based on things that I thought sounded interesting. So if I get some stuff wrong, please feel free to tell us in the comments.
Yes.
But the first one that I want to talk about is from Phantom Hourglass, and it is the Isle of Frost. So the Isle of Frost and Phantom Hourglass, it's the home to two different peoples that were like at war for a long time, but have been at peace for a while. It's the Anuki and the Yuk. So they've been at peace for a while, but there's a kidnapping between the two groups, and it's threatening to ruin that peace, obviously. So Link has to solve their conflict through a series of negotiations. So it sounds like kind of like almost like a fetch questy type thing where you go back and forth and talk to people. And once you get through that, then you can reach the Temple of Ice, where once you go through this Temple of Ice, you get the Azurine, which is one of the pieces that you need to forge the Phantom Sword that you're doing in the game.
Okay.
So there's a few enemies in the snow, locations in Phantom Hourglass. You have the blue choo-choos, a classic.
Yep.
Ice
now, are they
enemy.
ice or are they regular blue choo-choos?
It just said blue choo-choos.
Okay.
So I'm thinking they might just be regular blue choo-choos, but they might be ice choo-choos.
Okay.
But the source I was using just said blue.
Okay.
There are ice bubbles,
Okay.
which we haven't mentioned yet, but those floating skulls, usually you think of the fire bubbles.
Yep. Or the green one.
But there are ice ones as well. And like in Wind Waker, I know there's like those purple smoky ones that
Yes.
make you just
Then
lose all
yeah.
ability to fight. Ice Keese, another classic enemy. Really the only kind of interesting enemy from Phantom Hourglass for snow enemies that I thought was the Yuk and the brown Yuk. So basically they're Yetis. Yeah, and they
Bad Yetis.
right, mean Yetis. And they come at you, they attack you, but the way you defeat them, they do that air sucking thing.
Oh, okay.
Where you can throw a bomb.
Yep.
You like that
Yeah.
impression?
Well, it's like more of a slippery there.
I know. I was trying to make it come up on the audio. But they do that air sucking thing, and you can throw a bomb at them, and it
Yep.
gets whoop sucked into their mouth, and then you defeat them that way.
Yep.
So yeah, that is the information that I had on the Isle of Frost from Phantom Hourglass.
Okay. Well, mine is from Four Swords Adventure, actually. So this is Frozen Hyrule. It is the 7th level in Four Swords. It is the southern region of Hyrule, which apparently Hyrule is in the southern hemisphere altogether, because if you do south from us, that's warmer.
Right.
So what pretty much happened is the southern region of Hyrule froze over due to dark powers halting the flow of time, and pretty much leaves this area in a Game of Thrones style winter, where winter has come, it came, it stayed, it has not
You don't
left.
know when it's gonna leave.
Yeah, exactly. So it's inhabited, not bad guys wise, but it's inhabited by the Deku Scrubs and Purple Knights. I'm not sure what those are, but I'm assuming it's just a group of kind of like hedge knights type situation where they just hang out in this area.
Okay.
And the Deku Scrubs, obviously, just a type of people that live in that area as well. Now, bad guys.
It's interesting that Deku Scrubs live in an ice location, though.
Well,
but it's not usually
it's not,
frozen.
probably not
Right,
always
right.
froze. They just got stuck
I
there.
got that
Yep.
like as soon as I said it.
So for bad guys, you have your typical soldiers and everything else that you'll find. You'll have Stalfos, Wizorbs. They have something called Terrapins, which is a giant turtle that spins around and tries to get you.
It's delightful.
The weird things that they have in here, you have Shadow Link, which is in this.
Okay.
Which I remember when we did research on mini bosses. Dark Link is one of them, obviously. And when I was doing the research into that, I saw that Dark Link, Shadow Link makes a very big appearance in Four Swords.
Interesting.
So
okay.
the other ones are called the Pin-A-Gator, which is a very angry penguin and tries to attack you. So To my brother-in-law, Mike, not all penguins are nice.
He loves penguins.
So this one is not a nice person. Like I saw the screenshot of it from the game, and it just
Does it
looks.
have like fangs?
It did actually have fangs, I believe, and it just had like the evil like cross eye, just like staring at you, angry at all times. And then the other one, and I want to reach out to someone who's played Four Swords, Cheeps. And there was a picture, and it is the Cheep from
Like
Super
from
Mario.
Okay.
So those fish that come out.
Well, some games like Link's Awakening, right, had some crossover or something.
Yeah, some crossover.
None of the games I've played, but I've
Yeah.
heard there's some.
So I'm intrigued. If anyone's played Four Swords, let us know about the Cheep because I'm very intrigued of what the Cheep are doing in a frozen Hyrule
that's true.
area and not in a Mario world.
They got lost.
Yes.
Send
So
the Cheeps home.
so there are a ton of weapons you get in this area, actually. So you get the main one is the fire rod, which is what you're going for in this area. The next ones are you get the boomerang, bow, a magic hammer, and Pegasus boots, which I remember David talking about Pegasus boots.
Yeah.
and-
They let you fly a little bit or something.
Exactly, yep.
Clever, yeah.
And another fun fact about this, besides the fact that it's just a Game of Thrones world here in the north with the Starks, the music for this world is actually just a remix version of the Dark World from Link to the Past. So it's just a remix version of that song, which is, it seems on brand because obviously they've done that with some of the musics, whether playing backwards in some instances,
Right.
slowing it down, playing with different instruments, stuff like that. Like we talked about many times with Saria's song, this being remixed over and over again a lot of times to be very different, but you can still catch it. Or what was it? What song was played? It was Zelda's Lullaby played backwards, but I forgot what it was for.
Yeah, I forget. I've heard that too.
Yeah, so they do that a lot with their songs, and I find that very interesting that they're able to make it work still by doing a remix or reversing the song in general. So I thought that was really cool that they did that with this as well.
Yeah.
So what is your next one? I think it's your last one, right?
Yep. Yeah, this
Okay.
is my last honorable mention. And it's kind of 2 in 1. I kind of bundled them together because these 2 locations, like you have to go through one to get to the other, it seems like. And they're right close together. And they're from Spirit Tracks. So the first one is Anuki Village, or Anauki Village. I think it's Anuki. So it's a small village. It's full of huts made of snow. Here you get an air stone that teaches you the Song of Discovery, which lets you see items or chests that are buried underground. So
nice.
So the site kind of compared it to like your wolf senses when you're Wolf Link in Twilight Princess.
Okay.
Where you can kind of see where stuff is.
Okay.
Where you need to dig. So this village is under attack by monsters, and you have to help a guy named Hancho start a village watch. So like a a neighborhood watch to check out for monsters in the whatever this village. So once you help Hancho and you get the watch started, the chief will tell you how to get to the Snow Sanctuary. And the Snow Sanctuary, you're coming here to get information about defeating Malladus, which I'm guessing is the main bad guy in Spirit Tracks, or a main bad guy in Spirit Tracks.
Yeah, I've not played Spirit Tracks.
Forgive me, listeners, I have not played Spirit Tracks. But the main reason why I honestly was only going to talk about Anuki Village, I wasn't even going to talk about Snow Sanctuary, but there is a guardian named Steem, Steem, in Snow Sanctuary, who is adorable. That's like literally the only reason why I'm bringing it up, because the picture of him, he's like a cute little like old man looking guy with like a cloudy looking hair. He looks like a cartoon, like, I don't know, man that would be selling ice cream. Like, he's just so cute. And so I had to talk about the Snow Sanctuary, just to talk about Steam. Like, literally my notes, like, all I have is that you're coming here to get information from a sage, and you meet a guardian named Steam who is adorable.
Now, by guardian, is he someone that helps you or is someone that you have to fight?
Helps you
Okay.
from the sounds of it.
Okay.
Unless he turns on you, in which case
He
I'll
pulls
be
a Yetta.
heartbroken.
Yes.
But from what I saw, it sounds like he helps you.
Well, because Yetta's adorable too, and then all of a sudden she turns on you.
And then she's adorable again.
And then adorable again, so yes.
So we come full circle
Yes.
with Yetta. But yeah, so the enemies that you come across in Spirit Tracks, for the snow, There's some normal ones. So Freezards, Ice Choo-Choos, White Wolfos, La-da-da. We've heard this story before,
Yes.
but the one I really want to talk about is an enemy called Sir Frosty.
Sir Frosty.
Sir Frosty.
I didn't realize Mr. Frosty went to England and then got knighted.
He did. He got knighted. It's a big honor for Frosty the Snowman. It is literally a snowman, though, who throws his head at you. And then the head, like, regenerates. And then he throws it again. And they pepper you with their, head projectiles while you're in the train in Spirit Tracks. And so the way to defeat them is by hitting them with your cannon from the train. So you're just like blasting cannon fire at snowmen. Which I found that imagery to just be really entertaining. So I had to talk about Sir Frosty.
Sir Frosty.
Honorable mention. Yup. But that's it. That's all I have for my honorable mentions of snowy locations in Legend of Zelda.
Well, it's fun diving into these ones because like we haven't played a lot of 2D ones, and we mentioned a little bit here. And one I'm surprised. I wish one of us would have looked it up was Oracle Seasons. I'm surprised neither one of us did it, but I'm sure someone's gonna call out and say, "Oh, why didn't you talk about this game?" Yeah, let us
know. Commenters, come in and tell us what your favorite snowy locations are from. If we missed any from the games we did talk about. Mm-hmm. Or the games we didn't talk about, Oracle of Seasons, or, any of the older Zelda games if they're snow locations. Or...
I don't believe there are any in the first two, but I'm sure someone will correct me on that because I have not played them either. But from when I was looking through some of the games, like that's why I picked Frozen Hyrule. I thought that was really interesting that the bad guys, because I the Pen-gators or Pen-gators, whatever they are, just were hilarious, and even the terror pins, not even the terror. Pins.
You picked for the terror pins, and I picked for Sir Frosty.
Yes,
we made some very measured decisions here.
So, but I'm sure there are plenty of other places because, like in Breath of the Wild, there's so many mountains.
Oh my gosh,
and everything you get to,
and shrines.
Yes,
probably shrines we didn't even find.
Yes,
out there.
Because I have not gotten all shrines yet. That's
I
one
haven't
thing I'm
either.
still working on.
Mm-hmm.
But let us know what favorite winter locations that you have in any of the games, or ones that we forgot in the games, like you said, we played already. Mm-hmm. And let us know because we like to know these things and even the fun facts about them too, because they're just fun to read about. You can reach me on Twitter. I am Rambo Kuhn, so you can reach me there as well. And for you.
So you can find me on Twitter at MJ_Kuhn, Kuhn. You can also find me on Instagram, pretty newly. It's at MJ Kuhn Books, all one word.
Yes.
And then you can find the show if you want to talk to all of us,
yes.
the whole crew. On Twitter, it's at Another Zelda Pod. On Instagram, it's at Another Zelda Podcast. And then you can look on the website. It's just anotherzeldapodcast.com. And there's links to all the socials on there. The blog pages are on there. You can visit the Patreon if you wanted to become a patron, which would be super awesome. All that information can be found on the website.
Yep. And make sure you do go online to where you do listen to podcasts. Make sure you rate. Make sure you leave us a comment how great we're doing, because we're doing a pretty good job.
Well, now people are gonna be like, "Let's take him down a peg."
Yeah, I know, right?
But yeah, leave a review. That would be great.
Yes, we appreciate that. And until next time, I guess we'll see.
Okay, bye.